Welcome to the Emotional Eating Unwrapped podcast. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, an emotional eating and weight loss coach for women looking to fall in love with eating, create healthy attachments with food, and lose weight sustainably. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and today we are going to talk about how the pursuit of weight loss can distract you from real healing. I know this is a topic that so many women that I work with ask me about, right? Like we talk so much about how to stop being obsessed with the number on the scale. And it is something that took me a really long time to get over, to figure out a way to feel good about. And I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to take you through that process that I went through. And we're going to talk about what does success actually look like when it comes to healing your relationship with food and with your body. And if you're like me, for years, and you might still be here, and if you are, that's okay. For years, I thought that meant hitting a goal weight. That meant I would step on the scale, I would see a number, and once I got there, everything else would magically fall into place. I'd feel happier, I'd feel more confident. I would finally be at peace with food. The food noise would go away, the cravings would go away, the obsessions would go away. It would kind of be this almost like this commencement that I graduated from my issues with emotional eating, with my body image. But I learned the hard way, and I learned it more than one time. I learned it, probably I can count on both hands how many times I've learned it. And I know that for many women who listen to this podcast, they also have learned this lesson many times the hard way, that the number on the scale is never the real goal. Right? It's never the real goal. What I was actually chasing was a feeling, a sense of control, of self-acceptance, of finally being enough. It was a feeling of quiet in my brain about food, about criticism of my body. That's what I really wanted. I thought this number would give me. But that's where weight loss and the number on the scale can be so misleading, because when we make the number our North Star, we don't actually heal. We just trade one obsession for another obsession. Okay, I really want you to understand that addiction, food addiction, this relationship with weight and all this stuff, it can be transferred, right? That energy, that urgent energy, that feeling of unsafety can be transferred from food to weight to the number on the scale, right? It's like at the end of the day, we want something deeper. So today we're going to go deeper. We're going to talk about why weight-focused goals can keep us stuck. And I'm like, me, I'm a fan, right? Like I'm a fan of weight loss. I'm a fan of having a metric, maybe even a number that you want to hit, right? But that number has to be rooted in something more than you wanting to get a feeling of enoughness and worthiness and all these emotional results that you're hoping to get from a number, because that's not going to happen, right? So we're going to go deeper. We're going to talk about why weight-focused only goals keep us stuck. We're going to talk about the emotional cost of constantly tracking. And we're going to talk about what it means to actually heal in a way that lasts long term. Like, what does that really mean? How do we do that? And so let's start by talking about the problem with weight-focused goals. Because if you've ever measured your progress only by the scale, only by the scale. You know how this goes, right? A good number makes you feel proud, validated, in control. And a bad number, right? A bad number, God forbid, can ruin your entire day. And it could ruin your entire week, month, sending you into a spiral of guilt. You can then self-restrict, self-criticism, binging potentially again, having that F-it mentality, kind of just like it can totally alter the course of your energy and your mood. This is, this isn't healthy, obviously. And the worst part is that even when the number does go down and you have that moment of like, oh my God, I'm low, that like 2 seconds later, it's like the anxiety of it going away hits, right? It never feels like enough because the weight loss isn't actually about the number, right? It's not actually about the weight. It's about what we think the weight will give us. Like I said, happiness, confidence, freedom. But when success is tied to a number, we don't get that. We don't get that because any time that we prioritize an external validation over a sense of enoughness and freedom and self-acceptance and self-love from somewhere from the inside, it's never going to feel ease. It's never going to feel content. You're never going to feel that way. And in order to keep it, we're going to do things that potentially disconnect us even more from ourselves, right? Like, because now we're so obsessed with keeping this number that we think is going to eventually, if we have the number long enough, we're going to get all these emotional results that we're looking for. So in the short term, to keep it, we suppress hunger cues, convincing ourselves we're not really hungry. We push through exhaustion, working out even when our bodies are exhausted and need to rest because we're worried that if we don't work out, the scale's going to go up. We ignore the emotional toll, the stress, the mental exhaustion, all because all that matters is keeping this number intact. And that's when we start losing ourselves in the process. We start severing ourselves, right, from ourselves, right? It's like we just slowly just have this kind of spiritual demise of ourselves. And it doesn't make anything better. In fact, I know this firsthand. I've hit the number, right? I hit that number I thought would change everything. And instead of feeling free, I felt totally trapped, right? I hit that number when I was like 20, or maybe I was younger than that. And I was like 18, right? I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe how low this number is. I was the most obsessed than I ever was. It was the worst time of my life, right? My eating issues got so much worse, like crazy worse. Right? The obsession now didn't disappear at all. It just shifted, right? So now instead of trying to like get to this low number, I was terrified of gaining it back. And that's not healing. That's not freedom. That's not success. That's not confidence. That's just another kind of prison, right? So this is the problem with purely weight-focused goals. And now I consider myself healed. I'm 10 pounds heavier than I was back when I hit my number. And now this is my like good number, right? I feel amazing in this number. And this number fluctuates still to this day. But again, it's not about the number for me, right? Like it's just not, because I've healed. So let's talk about the emotional cost of obsessive tracking and why this also is not a sustainable or good way to go, right? So many of us have been conditioned to believe that tracking, whether it's calories, macros, steps, your iFit, whatever it the scale, it's a form of discipline. We have been conditioned to think that like, if we have data, we are disciplined. But that doesn't work for this. It is not a sign of discipline. It's a form of trying to get control, right? And here's what I see time and time again, right? I'm not going to villainize tracking for certain individuals, right? Like elite athletes, diabetics, right? People that, don't have an addictive relationship with eating and are trying to weaponize tracking for this feeling of control or trying to mask a different issue, right? I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about us who are food addicts and who struggle with emotional eating and feeling out of control with our appetites, right? And want to change that. What I see time and time again when people like us, reach for these types of things is that what starts out as a tool and something that makes the nervous system feel calmer and more in control quickly becomes a major, major source of anxiety. Because tracking is triggering. It makes it so easy to fall into the all or nothing mindset. I remember what it felt like to be stuck in the cycle of emotional eating. I tried every diet out there, counting, tracking, restricting, but nothing ever worked. Food controlled my life, my thoughts, and I constantly felt guilty after eating. But once I learned how to heal the emotional triggers behind my eating and trust my body, everything changed. I stopped obsessing over food, the weight started coming off naturally, and I found real freedom in how I ate and lived. So I created the Sober Eating year-long mentorship to help other women experience the same transformation. So you can stop battling with food, you can lose weight without deprivation, and you can feel confident in your body again. In this mentorship, you'll have access to my proven nervous system rewiring method. You'll have access to live coaching with me, weekly accountability, and a community of women who truly understand your journey. You'll also have free access to my signature programs, the Emotional Eating Solution and Decoding Permanent Weight Loss, valued at $2,000. Click the link in the show notes to explore the mentorship today. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right there with you every step of the way. Right? So easy to fall into the all or nothing mindset. It's like if you stay within your calorie limit, you feel accomplished. If you go over, you feel like a failure. If you haven't hit it yet, you're like scrambling to figure out how to hit it because you were told you have to hit it, and then you overeat, and then it's like, nothing is about your own intuition. Nothing is about your own self-led decisions. Right? If you hit your macros perfectly, you feel disciplined. If you don't, you feel guilty. If the scale goes down, you feel successful. If it goes up, you feel like you're back at square one. Right? This hyper focus on numbers, it prevents you from seeing progress in any other way. Right? You could have more energy. You could have better sleep. You could have improved digestion. You could feel more connected to the people in your life. You could even have your clothing be fitting better. Right? You could even feel lighter and, more, the brain fog could go away, right? Like you can feel more attentive and attuned, connected. But if the number isn't moving, it feels like none of it matters. Like that's just, and what happens when you feel like you failed, right? Because that's what happens. You feel like you failed. So you either double down, restrict harder, exercise more, right? That's what I did. I know that's what a lot of the women who I've worked with in the past have told me that was their experiences. Or you say, screw it, and spiral into a binge and emotional overeating and the numbing and the escaping. Either way, the cycle continues, right? Whether you punish yourself with quote unquote discipline, restriction, punishment like that, or numbing and escapism, right? But so this is why tracking isn't helpful for people like us, right? For some, like I said, it can be a tool, but for many, it becomes another way to micromanage your body, another way to detach from what actually matters, which is how you feel. So let's redefine what healing actually looks like, because if healing isn't about hitting a goal weight, I know that this is a question that I ask myself, and I get this question so much from the women in my mentorship. So if healing isn't about hitting a goal weight, what is it about? Healing is about creating a relationship with food and your body that feels safe and good to you. Right. And now a number on the scale, like losing numbers on the scale might be included in that. But attaching the entire kit and caboodle to it, no. Right? It's more about learning to trust yourself, to trust that you can eat when you're hungry, to stop when you're full, to listen to what your body tells you it needs, and to know that even if it tells you that it needs something that a past version of you might have thought was a bad food, that's okay. Right? It's about breaking free from the rules. There are no rules. There's guidelines sort of, and there's like education, and there's, certain things that you can apply. But again, it's not hard and fast. Right? Everything can be adapted once you know yourself and you have that verified evidence that your body responds to that. You need to put yourself in a position to let your body tell you and show you that it can be agile and adaptable. And believe me, I'm a good example. I'm a perfect example. It will. Hundreds of my clients are good examples. Right? Healing is breaking free from those rules and asking different questions, right? Like, am I eating in a way that gives me energy instead of making me feel sluggish? Am I making eating decisions that are, that are honoring how I want to feel? Like, if we're really honest, right? Like, don't you feel better when you eat mostly food that's high nutritional value? Like, yeah. I mean, I don't need someone to give me a rule of how exactly it has to look like in a day. But like, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm much more me, and I'm much more available to be the best version of myself, the most awake, clear, truly confident version of myself when I'm putting healthy nutrition into my body. Right? I like, that's just something that I do now. It doesn't mean that I don't eat crap food sometimes. Of course I do. Of course I do. But I'm connected to my feelings, my feeling body enough to let that help me modulate how I choose whether I'm going to eat something that's high nutritional value or low nutritional value. Right? And that is something that only time and practice and courage allowed me to do. Like, that is what's healing. And one of the things that's really important to practice here is non-scale victories. And this can be hard because we are conditioned to look at the scale as such a measure of progress. But when you stop obsessing over weight, you can learn how to measure progress in so many other ways and train your nervous system to believe it so that you can feel confident and self-accepting authentically. So if you start noticing when you're waking up feeling energized instead of exhausted, right? When you're feeling more comfortable in your clothes, right? Like, clothes are such a huge indicator. There are times where I've put on my clothes, I felt amazing in them, got on a scale, and the number was higher than I thought, right? Like, if this was 20 years ago, that would have sent me down a spiral. Now I'm like, I feel good in my clothes, kind of weird that the number's higher, but like, who cares? Who knows why that's the case, right? Like maybe it's my body's carrying more water weight. Maybe my bone density is changing. It's like we're just changing all the time. There's so many reasons, right? A non-scale victory that I know, a couple of the women in the mentorship have shared this with me lately, this exact non-scale victory, going out to eat and actually enjoying the experience instead of mentally calculating every bite. That is freedom. Oh my God. The fact that I could go to, to a restaurant and not try to mentally calculate what the dish with sauce and like random, root vegetables with oil and sauteed and mashed potatoes and chicken in a wine sauce, like not try to mentally calculate how much calories those have. I mean, that's such a freedom. Not really care, kind of just let my hunger and fullness cues guide me. I mean, that's amazing. These are the wins that actually matter because they don't just last for a few weeks. They change your relationship with yourself forever. And the truth is, when you start to allow this way of being with yourself to guide your food choices and your eating decisions, you lose weight. I mean, this is a proven. It's proven time and time again that when you just listen to yourself and make decisions from a place of self-honoring, you lose weight. I mean, it happens, right? So you want to stop chasing a number on the scale. You want to stop waiting until you reach some external goal. You want to start living your life now, right? Exactly how you are with, wanting to improve in certain areas. And that's okay, right? That's really okay. And as long as you're seeing other non-scale victories, I guarantee you that those non-scale victories, as long as you don't continue to obsess over the scale will go down. The scale might also stay the same for a little while. But what happens is that when we don't see the scale go down, and the scale is such a measure of success for us, we sabotage ourselves. We sabotage the consistency that we've been doing that's been making us feel so good in those other non-scale related victories, right? So if you can just detach from the scale, sometimes the scale might go down, sometimes it might not go down, but if you're consistent with the other areas, it will definitely go down. And if it doesn't go down anymore and you're like 10 to 15 or so pounds away from your quote unquote goal weight, you might need to reconsider the goal weight. That's what I had to do, right? Like I told you, I had a weight, and now I'm like 10, 12 pounds heavier than that because that wasn't a realistic weight for me, especially if I wanted to have muscle on my body, especially if I wanted to prioritize, like I said, muscle mass and other things. That is pounds, right? So you have to consider that. Okay, so if there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode, it's that you don't have to wait for a certain number to feel like you have made progress. Okay, you don't have to. Healing isn't about graduating to a weight. It's about freeing yourself. All right. So that is all I have. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much again to all the listeners on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube. If you are enjoying the podcast, please subscribe, give us a like, and I will see you again next week. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.